Today I'm talking about sketching equipment, and I'm going to talk about what I took with me when I went to Tasmania on holiday recently. Firstly, the sketchbooks. This sketchbook is the perfect sketchbook. It was a Kickstarter program, so it's not available commercially now. More's the pity. It's a lovely book. Fabriano Artistico paper, 200 GSM. If ever they have another Kickstarter, it's a good way to get a quality sketchbook for a fairly good price. These are just some of the sketches that I did while I was there. Then, because I like to write a diary and sketch at the same time, I decided that I would take a fairly inexpensive sketchbook as well. The De La Rani Ebony has a lot of pages and 150 GSM paper, so it takes a fair amount of watercolor. So in here I could actually make some notes of what I was taking, and then use a combination of journal and sketches throughout the holiday. Because I didn't feel so precious about the book, I could write and scribble and use up plenty of paper. Then the next thing I always have with me is this little pink bag, and it's plastic. It's fairly waterproof, and in it I keep my ready-to-go sketching equipment as far as painting's concerned. First thing is a little Schmink travel palette. It's supposed to be for 8, but I've taken out the insert and I've added full pans and half pans depending on which ones I use the most. You can see here these two, the cobalt blue and the burnt sienna, are two of my favorites, particularly for greys, so those have worn down quite a bit. It's very handy, and it has a little thumb ring at the bottom. Then in this little bag, so that would go into the bag, I also have a cellulose sponge with a little Ziploc bag so it doesn't make everything else wet, and that's for cleaning my brush or cleaning the palette. I usually add a water brush, which is quite useful, and a Rosemary and Company travel brush. This is a Sable number 8, and it fits back into the holder. It's got a little hole at the end so that your brush can dry out. And then I always make sure that I have a little bottle with some water in it so that I can paint wherever I am. I add a little press stick or blue tack so that if I'm somewhere where I need to anchor the bottle, I can do that even on a cafe table so that you don't knock it over accidentally. Then the next thing I carry with me is this pencil roll, also fairly inexpensive. And in this I have a collection of fountain pens with different colored inks, brown, grey, black, some charcoal pencils, and a couple of water-soluble pencils as well, so that I can use those just with a water brush. And that wraps up. So generally, on a day-to-day basis, I would go with the small sketchbook, the pink bag, and the pencil roll. That would go with me everywhere. Then if I have a place, or if I'm driving by car and I want to work a little larger, I come with some extra equipment. I like to have my large Schmink with a wide selection of colors. This one's also been modified to take a huge number of colors. They're not all necessary, but I like to be prepared. This one also comes with a thumb ring at the bottom. This Faber-Castell water jar is very useful because you can flatten it down and it doesn't take up a lot of space. Then I've used an old travel wallet which I have modified. I've added a little piece of foam core, some elastic bands, and these keep some pens and some of my larger brushes so that they don't get all bent and buckled. It's not ideal. It does tend to push these down a bit, and I have bought a bamboo brush roll. Well, I ordered one and it didn't come before the holidays, so next trip I'll be using something a little bit more glamorous, but it works. Then I generally carry a couple of watercolor blocks if I want to work a little larger. This one is slightly larger than A4, maybe it is A4, 300 GSM. The paper's glued on the edges so that it's really stretched as you go. And then a much larger one, Fabriano, also 300 GSM, and that one's a rather lovely size. I don't always get to use the larger sizes. And then to carry these larger items, I add them into this rather pretty tapestry tote. I can add everything in there if I wanted to. There's plenty of room for it. And I'm good to go.